which... Well, hello there, watching the press preview. A first look at what is on the front pages as they arrive. Time to see what's making the headlines with the Conservative commentator, Tim Montgomerie. And I was going to say the contributing editor to Novara Media, Moya Lothian-McLean, but she's not here yet. Tim, it's down to you for the moment, so stand by.
No, poor viewers.
Front pages there. Let's start then, shall we? The Metro has word of heartbreak for Archie's family as the 12-year-old's life support is due to be switched off tomorrow. The Times leading with a poll saying that 66% of Tory party members prefer Liz Truss as the next leader and Prime Minister. The Telegraph reports that voting has been delayed because of a cyber threat to the election process. The Express interviews Liz Truss, who says she's the only candidate who can deliver the growth Britain needs. The Financial Times leads with the US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi touching down in Taiwan, prompting the Chinese government to conduct military drills. The Mail also leads on the threat from China in response, while the Eye criticises the Department for Education for not guaranteeing girls equal access to football in PE lessons, even after the Lionesses' triumph at the weekend. Reporting that BP has made £7 billion in the last 3 months amidst the energy crisis. The Mirror brands them brazen profiteers. And that is also the lead story for The Guardian there. Outrage, they say, as oil firms rake in huge profits while bills soar. Well, a reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out those front pages while you watch us, or Tim, unless she's here. Oh, she's here. Moya Lothian-McLean joins us as well. Moya, great to have you with us as well. And let's kick off with you, in fact, and just start with the Metro, the newspaper that's leading with the terrible plight and anguish of Archie Battersby's family, with the news for them and an awful day ahead of them tomorrow.
Yes, so this is the news that Archie Battersby's family, who have campaigned for months to keep him on life support, that they've been told their appeals have failed, that he will be taken off life support at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. They are mounting a last-ditch legal attempt to the European Court of Human Rights. But in lieu of that, they've also asked for Archie to, if he is going to be taken off life support, they want him moved to a hospice. They say they want him to die peacefully and surrounded by family. But there's no news yet on whether that will even be possible. I think this case has been a particularly harrowing one for parents across the country. It's been really distressing to see the family's pain play out in front of us. But what it has been in terms of a legal precedent is it's shown how important it is for those routes of appeal and those routes to the, Strasbourg and the European Court of Human Rights are for people when they're pursuing cases like this. And they, his mother, Holly Dance, has said she'll pursue every last possible legal action. And it's shown how key it is to have those channels for people to do this and keep that hope alive.
Yeah, there was a lengthy statement, certainly, at the Supreme Court today. The judges pointing out that the issue is not about Archie's recovery, but about the timing and manner of his death. And they said even if life-sustaining treatment were to be maintained, Archie would die in the course of the next few weeks through organ failure and then heart failure. And obviously, Tim, the central part of the law of England and Wales is that the child's interests come first, and that is what the law is dictating here, in fact.
Look, I'm sure for all three of us here tonight, our heart goes out to everyone involved in this case. There's a picture, I think, in the Times today, it was probably in other newspapers, of Archie in his bed with a little cuddly bunny rabbit at his side, which obviously was a childhood toy. This is, even talking about it now, one chokes up. And everyone here, the courts, the doctors, it's tough for all of them. But my general view is we should err on the side of patients, the parents. The love of a parent for their children is the greatest force for good, in my view, in a society. And I think some of the basic requests of the parents, even now, wanting to take their son out of the chaos and the noise of a hospital so that he might die in a hospice is being refused. And this just seems to me to be just a little bit too harsh at the end. I don't want to criticize anyone involved in this because it is nightmarish, but just giving that little bit more of the balance of doubt to the parents at this time is what I would have hoped to have seen. But as Moya says, the courts, have gone to the highest level now, certainly within the UK. There has been a proper process of appeal. And so I hesitate to make an alternative judgment. But personally, I don't think we are quite as erring on the side of parents as I think we should.
Yes, it's hard to, to get past that beautiful child's face, isn't it, in all of those pictures we saw there, certainly. And as you said, we extend our sympathies to all his family and everybody who knew him. It's a very, very difficult story to deal with for everybody, I think, certainly. Let's head on to the Conservative leadership contest. Tim, I know you're aware about this. I'm going to kick off with you. Everybody wondering where their ballot papers were. Well, it turns out, according to the Telegraph, that GCHQ has got involved, and they have said that cyber hackers could change people's ballots. Tell us more.
Well, this is a breaking story for me, Anna, as well, so I don't want to say too much about it. But one thing I am wondering about was there was this curious innovation in this election whereby if a Tory member such as myself voted now for one candidate, there was the possibility that we could change our vote later in the process electronically. Now, we can't do that in any other, normal election. And that made me worry about, the sort of the rigor, the robustness of this system anyway. And perhaps other people have thought, there's an opportunity here. And we know that powers like Russia have tried to intervene in elections before. This isn't just the election of the Conservative Party leader. This is the election of the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So I am encouraged that there's been a delay, even if the risk is only small, that the security services are involved and they're investigating to ensure that this process cannot be contaminated and cannot be infiltrated. But I think until we've seen the detail of the story, and I haven't yet, I've emailed and texted a few key contacts tonight, haven't heard back from them yet. But obviously we cannot have a system which will choose Boris Johnson's successor open to any kind of abuse by economic interests who might be trying to spook or alter betting markets, or much more seriously, a foreign power that is trying to, for example, potentially change the person who'll be deciding policy on Ukraine and other key things in the weeks ahead.
Well, Tim, we have had sight of one of the letters being sent to the voting Tory members. It says, your ballot is on the way. Thank you so much for your patience as we have worked to put this election together. It will arrive with you a little later than we originally said. Please do not worry. This is because we have taken some time to add some additional security to our ballot process, which has delayed us slightly, and then goes on to say it is an offence to vote more than once, etc., etc. So acknowledgement there that there is a delay, and the Telegraph with that story. In the meantime, Moya, the Times tells us that Rishi Sunak is actually falling well behind. They've carried out a poll with YouGov, which says that Rishi Sunak has 26% of the vote as it stands, while Liz Truss has 60% of the vote, a 34-point lead. Does she look unassailable, do you think?
I mean, it's funny, we talk about nefarious actors within the Tory voting contest. There are only two options, so we have to wonder if anyone was trying to influence the vote, who would they actually be influencing the vote in favour of? So yes, this is a new poll by YouGov, which seems to suggest that, it's very recent, that seems to suggest despite Liz Truss's interesting policy announcements over the last few days, her very public U-turn on what is being called the public sector tax, that she will storm it. She is much more popular, apparently, with the polled Conservative members than Rishi Sunak. It found that early voting will also benefit Liz Truss. 6% of members said that they would vote for her over Sunak, and it said that 45% of members who were questioned would vote as soon as they received their ballot papers. And it found that Liz Truss outstripped Rishi Sunak in terms of being seen as more in touch with ordinary people. They thought she was more likeable. They thought she was more trustworthy. However, supporters of Rishi Sunak have hit back at this polling and said that it's notoriously difficult to accurately sample Tory members' opinions, which at this stage of the competition looks a bit like limply trying to hold back the oncoming tide of Truss. But we will wait and see. And as Tim pointed out, there was this strange innovation where potentially members can change their votes within the next 2 months. But as it stands, it seems like Liz Truss may well be the next Prime Minister of the UK.
Yeah, and certainly that change your vote ability was seen as a boost to Rishi Sunak because Liz Truss had the early lead, but that seems to be being established more, doesn't it? Comment on that. And also, what did you call it? A public sector pay tax. What did you call it, Moya? What?
I called it a public sector pay tax, but that isn't accurate. It was her plan that it was more about regional pay boards. Okay. It's that across the country, public sector workers would have their pay changed in line with the regional living costs, which of course would mean an effective pay cut for millions of workers in regions outside of London in the middle of a cost of living crisis.
Yes, so this idea of regional pay awards makes the top of the front page of the Eye, the inside pages of the Mirror as well, Tim. You know, is it damaging for her? Does she believe in this idea of regional pay? What does that mean to levelling up stroke levelling down? And, you know, if she's throwing out all these policies all the time, will some of them fall flat?
Well, look, there's so much there for me to come back on. But look, Rishi Sunak's campaign is in big trouble. You know, this is a massive lead for Liz Truss amongst Conservative members. On another channel yesterday, I promised to come and eat my hat or whatever if Liz Truss isn't Prime Minister at the end of at the beginning of September, excuse me. But she has had a bad 24 hours. She announced this policy, and for the reasons Moya has just sort of suggested, the idea that you're going to level down public sector pay rather than level up public sector pay, you know, has frightened people. And she's made a terrible policy choice. But unlike, for example, Theresa May or others in the past who've stuck with policies they shouldn't have done, you know, she's U-turned very quickly. So I think the damage is perhaps minimised, although there will be questions now about her judgment because of this U-turn. But one thing about that opinion poll that, you know, that gives Rishi Sunak a commanding lead on the front page of tomorrow's Times, the polling was conducted over the last 5 days. So it won't really have included the effect of Liz Truss's worst day of the campaign. So yes, Rishi Sunak is in trouble, but the delay to the ballot papers that we've just been discussing because of security concerns and Liz Truss's awkward 24 hours will perhaps give the Sunak campaign a glimmer of hope, which I think actually will not come to very much, but will give them a glimmer of hope that they can still turn this round.
Yes, although the Times YouGov poll does suggest that most of them have made their minds up already. But as you say, it's changeable, is it not? We'll keep an eye on that story. Moving on, though, we will go to BP, which has made £7 billion in 3 months as the energy crisis continues. More on that in just a moment. Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview. With me now, Moya Lothian-McLean and Tim Montgomerie. Welcome back to both of you. So another energy giant makes big profits. Moya?
Yes, this is BP, who've recorded their biggest quarterly profit in 14 years. If you're a shareholder in BP, great news for you. You're going to get £4 billion overall in dividends. However, for those people on the ground, such as you or I, our energy bills are predicted to be more than 3,600 by October. There's another rise in the so-called price cap by 70%. And now people are starting to say there needs to be action taken. The tax breaks that were given to these energy companies are being questioned by the likes of Labour, and people are calling for an instant tax on their profits, given they've skyrocketed so much, including Martin Lewis, famed social campaigner now, has been supporting bringing in a social tariff, which would give potentially low-income households a £1,000 discount on their energy costs this year.
We've rehearsed these arguments last week, haven't we? You know, these are global profits, etc., etc. But I'm going to move on, if you don't mind, because we're quite short of time. But no doubt we'll come back to that. To the news, front page of the Financial Times, this controversial visit by Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the US House of Representatives, in Taiwan. China not happy, Tim?
No, not happy. And I generally, with Nancy Pelosi, I'm on the opposite side of politics to Nancy Pelosi. I normally disagree with her on everything, but my goodness, I really salute what she's done here. China likes to intimidate everyone. It thinks that just by saying there will be repercussions, we'll all kowtow to them. We certainly, I think, failed as a Western civilization to stand up for the Uyghur Muslims adequately enough in the persecution camps in China, failed to stand up enough to the rolling back of democratic freedoms in Hong Kong. And we must now stand with the free people of Taiwan. And so Nancy Pelosi going there in this high-profile way, despite all the pressure would put upon her, is absolutely vital, especially in the context of the Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We must make it clear to the totalitarian powers that we will stand with democracy.
And I'm just reading that The Guardian is reporting that China's UK ambassador has vowed severe consequences if British politicians visit Taiwan. So we'll see where that takes us. Both of you, thank you very much indeed. Moya, Tim, thank you.